Welcome to the Hope for the Animals podcast, a project of compassionate living. I'm your host, Hope Bohannick. I'm excited to share today's episode. It's a fun one. Our guest is Brittany Drake of the Protego Foundation. What on earth is Protego? It's a Harry Potter spell. Okay, nerds, are you ready for this? This is a unique group of animal activists that have these creative campaigns around like pop culture entertainment. So stick around to be entertained. But before we get into the interview, I did want to just touch on something that's been in the news recently. Really briefly, I want to talk about the screwworm. The screwworm that is affecting the meat industry and has made its way up from Mexico into our mainstream news. So, if you haven't heard of this New World screwworm, it's a larva of a fly that's been infecting cows and other farmed animals in Texas. It was eradicated in the 60s, but now it's back. And when I Googled it, I've been hearing a lot about it in the news. So I Googled it just to kind of read a little bit. And the first article that came up said, quote, "How will the screwworm affect your beef prices?" So, of course, what we care about most is if we can afford our beef burgers, not, before how it affects the poor animals. And how it affects the animals is that the screwworm enters the body through an open wound. So, if your dog or cat had an open wound, what would you do? You apply medication, you put on a bandage, you take them to the vet, you do everything you can to mitigate any infection or problem. Well, farmed animals are domesticated animals that need to be cared for by us, and they have open wounds all the time from industry standard horrible procedures, and no one is caring for them. Guess who has the most open wounds? It's the babies. The calves are the ones being infected because they are the ones that are dehorned and ear tagged and castrated, all these horrible body mutilations without anesthesia that cause open wounds are often and mostly done to the babies. I heard on a news podcast, this guy said something like, "So animals have nicks and cuts, and that's how the screwworm gets in." It's not just nicks and cuts, it's festering, painful, open wounds. From all the coverage I've seen, they're really quick to say that it's not a disease and that it won't affect the food. But that piece of flesh you're buying, guess what? There could have been a screwworm infestation just inches away that they cut out. Ugh. Enjoy your burger. Hopefully, it will make beef prices soar. Okay, moving on. I think you're going to like this conversation. Let's jump in. It's a fun one. Here we go. Okay, today on the podcast, I am excited to introduce Brittany Drake. Brittany is the campaigns director for the Protego Foundation. Through this foundation, she has helped with countless campaigns and seen several successes, such as getting vegan butterbeer served at the Warner Brothers and Universal properties. Of course, that's connected to the Harry Potter franchise and attractions. Also, getting Starbucks to drop the vegan upcharge for non dairy milks. Harvard and University of Massachusetts closing their monkey labs, and Farmer John's closing their Los Angeles slaughterhouse. So she has been busy and done a lot for the animals. In addition to her campaign work, she has rescued farmed animals and has been arrested for civil disobedience on multiple occasions. And I know that she just rescued some beagles as well. Maybe we can hear about that. Welcome to the podcast, Brittany.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have you. Okay, so we before we get into your work and your advocacy, we like to get to know you. So why don't you give us your vegan origin story? Why and when did you go vegan?
That is, I feel like a pretty standard history for like most vegans. It's my this year will be my 15-year vegan anniversary in December. I graduated college in 2008, and for a while I was looking for a job. Initially, I got a position helping a homeopathic doctor do some research into diet, and I that was when I learned that eating animal products is not great for human bodies. And from then, for like 2 years, I was flexitarian, really conscious about animals who I was eating. And eventually, I just couldn't do it anymore. I realized like 2 years into that, like I just wanted to try no animals at all. So yeah, basically what I did it for my health. As soon as I made that commitment to not eat animals, I initially decided to do it for a year. Like a week in to that decision, I did a bunch of research because I was curious about honey and other things that I didn't know about, and watched a couple of undercover investigations, cried my eyes out, and
Mm.
then I knew it was going to be forever and that I was going to be vegan for the animals first and foremost. Yeah, I was 25, and that was about 15 years ago. At the end of this year, it'll be 15 years since I made
Wow.
that decision.
Wonderful. Congratulations. And wonderful that you did that. And you not only are vegan for the animals, but you are really active for the animals and doing some advocacy. And I know that you are involved with this really unique campaign called the Protego Foundation. So tell us about the Protego Foundation. And I think you started with a campaign around Harry Potter. Tell us about how it all came about.
In 2015, the Protego Foundation was founded. Initially, it was named the Fwooper Foundation, which is one of the magical creatures from Harry Potter.
The what?
Fwooper,
Grouper.
Fwooper, Fwooper. It's one of the
Okay.
magical creatures in Harry Potter. And then a few years later, a couple years later, we went through a couple of name changes and then eventually landed in 2018 on the Protego Foundation. It's a protection charm in Harry Potter, but it is also a real Latin word. It means I protect, I defend.
Oh,
So
wow.
that is why it's a really apt name for our organization, because we aim to protect and defend animals in
Yeah.
specifically fandom spaces, and using the lessons and inspiration that we feel and learn through the fandoms that inspire us, and use those lessons to speak up for animals.
Yeah, and fandom. I don't know that everybody would know this word, but it's when there's a particular kind of genre in entertainment and people really are drawn to it. They really connect to it and become fans and create a community around it. Like Star Trek was probably one of the first ones. I mean, I don't know, maybe there's others that are examples, but now there's so much of this fandom around, Game of Thrones or Harry Potter. So, yeah, just wanted to get people to understand kind of what we're talking about. Yeah.
Basically any franchises or stories that inspire people, that typically like they have really good world building, which is what brings people in, and a lot of people become immersed in it, enjoy reading it, watching the movies, whatever the medium is. Lord of the Rings was another like
Oh,
early
yeah.
fandom community where, throughout the decades the fandom has shifted. Like I think in the 70s it was a very hippie community of fans, and it's shifted many times throughout the years.
Mm.
Like any fan communities, any media that inspires you, that the people like to like revisit that
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. Very cool. And then you get into the cosplay and put on the costumes and go to the festivals and the conferences. Lots of fun. So tell us about the first campaign or how you kind of got started.
Yeah, I joined in 2021. I joined the Protego Foundation, and it wasn't our first campaign, but it was our first major campaign where we were working on our own, which is the vegan butterbeer campaign, Accio Vegan Butterbeer. That campaign aimed to get vegan butterbeer in all Warner Brother Universal properties. Anywhere where they served it, we aimed to get vegan butterbeer, because the formula that was created for that drink that they were serving at the parks, at any Harry Potter themed stores and tours, it was copyrighted. They were supposed to like stick to a particular recipe, which the base of the recipe, the soda itself was vegan, but it came with a dairy topping. and they were not allowed to serve it without that dairy topping. So we were aiming to, at the very least, get people the option to ask to get it without the vegan topping because
Mm.
butterbeer, it seems like a very small ask, but butterbeer is such a popular beverage, even just at the Universal Studios parks, that I know in Los Angeles, when they did the renovation to add the Wizarding World wing of their park, the amount that it cost to build that they earned in butterbeer sales within the first 6 months of being opened. That's how
Wow.
popular that beverage is. So within 6 months,
Wow.
just butterbeer sales alone made enough to cover the cost of building that park.
Oh, that's
So
amazing.
if you
Whoa.
think about that sheer number of drinks that are sold, that's a huge difference
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
animals and showing a demand. So we started the Accio Vegan Butterbeer campaign as a petition, and it went for a couple of years. We had thousands and thousands of signatures from people who were really on board with this campaign and really wanted a vegan option. Our emails, our letters went unanswered until 2021, or it might have been 2022. We went to Florida and we organized a protest outside of the executive's entrance at Universal, and we pitched it to press. We sent the press release to Universal and let them know that we were going to be protesting outside their offices. And the very day before the protest was supposed to happen, they announced that anyone could get butterbeer without the dairy topping at the parks. And then about 6 to 9 months later, they introduced a non-dairy topping option. So now you can actually get the full vegan butterbeer experience with a non-dairy topping.
Wow. Wonderful. Yeah, amazing. And I can't believe that it's people get it that much. I mean, I guess there's a lot of people that go to that park and part of the experience. Yeah. Well, wonderful.
Yeah, it's a great
Incredible.
example of public pressure. I mean, this protest was really only going to have maybe 20 people. It wasn't going to be that huge, but they really didn't want the media. They didn't want the pushback. So, I mean, who's to say what the reason was? But I mean, it does seem very coincidental that the day before our protest was planned, was the day that they announced.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure it was connected. Yeah. Fantastic. Oh, that's great. I love that. Yeah. And I know that you have a campaign now around Wicked and the release of the second Wicked movie. But I want to hear about some of your other campaigns before we go there. I know you had a couple of other campaigns. Tell us a little about some of those.
Yeah, we launched a campaign called Release the Reins, which is urging for an end to horse-drawn carriages. We have some email templates people can use to send to their any local horse-drawn carriage, companies or events that feature horse-drawn carriages, typically around the end of the year, on the holidays. There are a lot of like local events that will feature horse-drawn carriages. So we have some email templates people can use to email their local city council, businesses, anyone that they want to reach out to. We also have a campaign that's themed around Game of Thrones. It is called Defend the Direwolves, which I take this campaign to heart because it's geared towards fan conventions. So a lot of fan conventions, like you can think like Comic-Con, but not particularly Comic-Con. They actually don't allow live animals. But a lot of other fan conventions will allow vendors to bring in live animals as props for photos. So this campaign
Like
is,
wild animals?
yeah,
Like wild
we've
animals.
seen wolf dogs, owls, crows. There's this company, Cool Zoo, I think based out of Florida, that on the East Coast, they tend to go to conventions. I think we've seen like baby kangaroos, crocodiles,
Oh.
like wild animals. Yeah, fan conventions are typically like they're large. There's a lot of people. It's very loud. It's typically indoors, and they run long hours, like 12 hours a day, maybe like 8 hours of like floor time for these animals. where
Yeah.
they're, yeah, facing loud noises, constant human interaction. Like it's a very stressful environment for these animals. So this campaign is around urging convention organizers and pressuring them to commit to not allowing vendors to bring in live animals as props for photos. We've
Yeah.
seen some conventions where they'll have like owls or crows on these really short tethers that are like connected to a glove so that people can just hop into the like little photo backdrop, put the glove on, and then the bird is attached to the glove basically with a very short tether. And then they can take photos with the birds. And then it's just like this constant cycle of this happening. This is not a fun environment for these birds.
Mm.
So that's what this campaign is around is it's a
Yeah.
very specific like fandom space,
Uh-huh.
and fans should know like it's not just cool we get to see some animals. No, like it might be cool for you, but it is very stressful for these animals.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's such great work. I mean, it's these things that, not a lot of people would know about, and a space where it's very specific. So that's great that you are focusing in and taking on, these places where animals are being abused, and we don't know. Really good work. So I want to hear now about your latest campaign, and it is around the movies Wicked. Of course, they came from books, a series of books that are Wicked, of course, is a prequel to The Wizard of Oz. And it kind of shows the origin story of Glinda, the Good Witch, and the Wicked Witch of the West. And now the second movie has been released just recently, and you have a campaign around this. Tell us about this campaign.
Yeah, this campaign is called Defying Captivity, which is a theme. It's a take on one of the popular songs from the movie, which is Defying Gravity.
Right. Right. Oh, and the movie was a Broadway musical. That's where it really originated. Well, no, the book was the original. But right, the movie came from the Broadway musical, which had that wonderful song Defying Gravity. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the movies are funny because it's based on a musical that was based on a book that was based on another book that was also a movie. So it's
Right.
this
Wow. Yeah, that's
cycle
yeah, no wonder I'm
inception
confused.
of
Yeah.
references um, for Wizard of Oz. Yeah, I mean, I saw the musical probably maybe 12 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, I'm a big Broadway like musical nerd. I really love musical theater. And no one really talks about the animal angle that's in the story, that's in the musical, because I think people tend to just really focus on the characters, the songs. People tend to forget about the animal angle. And I never really heard people talk about it. And so the first time I saw the musical, I was shocked at how like bald-faced, how obvious it is that Elphaba is an animal rights activist
Yeah.
and that like there's a huge animal rights theme within the story, and I'd never heard of it. I couldn't like so I talked to friends who had seen the musical and people forgot like that and they were like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that." Like that's a whole plot. Like it's the instigating plot. It's necessary to the story.
Yeah.
And so any other like friends I knew who were vegan who'd seen the musical also walked away like shocked, like I can't believe no one talks about this. So when the first movie came out, we were really inspired, and so after that first movie came out, we spent time like planning and thinking about what we wanted to do around the release of the second movie because we really wanted to have a campaign about animals because these movies are really popular. That first movie was very, very popular. So we wanted to build off that popularity, build off that interest in the story, and use that as a springboard to make those connections, help people make the connection that animals have rights, that animals like deserve freedom. These themes that are in the story that I think people tend to forget. So we wanted to use that to really help people connect those dots so that they don't just walk away from it and like forget the next day that that's a big part of the story. So we decided on the Defying Captivity angle, which is primarily an educational campaign aimed more at an introductory, like people who aren't as familiar with veganism, with animal rights. We wanted to, yeah, aim at people who aren't already in this world and try to help them make the connections that animals in captivity are stressed. It's not a great environment for them. So we have specifically focusing on zoos, marine parks, aquariums, rodeos, circuses. I mean, you can apply captivity to pretty much anything because all animals who are exploited for the most part are in a captivity. A lot of animal rights issues begin with animals in captivity. That's where things start. So it applies to pretty much everything, but we're really trying to educate people on zoos, rodeos, like main forms of entertainment that people don't think about. There have been so many times where I've had friends, family send me photos of them bringing their kids to the zoo, take their kids horseback riding because they think that I'll really enjoy that because I like animals. And then I have to sit down and tell them, like, well, I'm glad that you're excited, but there are inherent issues with zoos, with horseback riding, with rodeos, circuses. But zoos in particular, like they get so much like public funding, they get so much goodwill, like no one really thinks about it as a problem. Everyone just thinks it's again like, oh, you get to see some really cool animals in your area. They don't think about like the breeding programs, the stress on these animals, like zoochosis, animals that are literally going insane because they're kept in captivity. So this campaign, we've got like a bingo card people can use to take like simple actions, and then they can like post a bingo on their social media if they want to, or they can print it out and do it with their children. Finding a vegan snack to take to the movies, signing the pledge to not visit zoos. We have again like we have leaflets, we have protest signs people can download on our website if they want to start getting into like higher forms of action for animals so that they could print out these protest signs if they wanted to go to or host their own protest. They can print out leaflets. They can, there's also an email template on our website where people can send emails to again, like anything local, like with petting zoos, other things. We're also hosting some action hours throughout the year. We'll be hosting a couple of action hours where people can like join on a Zoom call and we'll all take a couple of simple actions together.
Mm.
For animals, we just had one a few weeks ago where we reached out to Denver Zoo, Tulsa Zoo, urging them to release their elephants. I'm from LA, and the elephants Billy and Tina, who were at the LA Zoo for decades, and the LA activism scene was really honed in on that, and they were really making starting to make some headway. And instead of actually listening to the local activists, they shipped those elephants to Tulsa Zoo,
Mm.
where they were hoping people were going to forget about it. So we
Yeah.
were helping people not forget about that, letting the Tulsa Zoo know that no, these animals have been in captivity. They've been slowly going insane. They need to be released to
Yeah.
a sanctuary.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's actually, I was just thinking about it. There's a wonderful new movie on Netflix called Remarkably Bright Creatures. Have you heard about it? Have you seen it yet?
I have not seen it, no.
Okay, it's just newly out. It's with Sally Field and it's really good. It's in a marine park. Sally Field plays a cleaning lady at a marine observatory thing where people come and see all the sea creatures in these glass cases. And the whole thing is narrated by an octopus. And this octopus named Marcellus is it's so anti-captivity. I mean, it really is. I was shocked at how because I watched this because I was like, oh, I love Sally Field. I'd like to see, what they're gonna say about a a marine park. It was very anti-captivity. Marcellus will say things like, day 1042 of my captivity, and he's all sad about being captive and talks about how he is held captive by a lesser intelligence animal, these dull creatures, the humans, right, that he's talking about. It's really a wonderful movie. Anyway, highly recommend Remarkably Bright Creatures.
I will definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, yeah.
I would
So
also recommend there's a documentary, a docu-series on HBO that came out, I think a year and a half ago called Chimp Crazy. That I mean, it's not as this one's more it's a documentary, but it follows the PETA legal team going after like a lot of these like women and small orgs that were just basically like trafficking wild animals, especially chimps.
Mm,
But it was a really fascinating documentary to see like how these women and organizations like try to skirt the law, trading these wild animals, and like the denial that they have for how smart and also dangerous these animals are. They kind of just treat them like their children, feed them like McDonald's, and like inevitably someone gets injured and then the chimps are put down. It's just like, yeah, it showcases the people's unwillingness, humans' unwillingness to realize that these are wild animals and that they're not like just children that you could do whatever you want with. They like
yeah.
ignore their needs. It's a whole thing, really
What's that one
documentary.
called?
Chimp crazy.
Chimp crazy. Okay. Yeah, I'll put links to all of these that we're mentioning in the show notes so people can watch them. So, kind of coming back to Wicked and, the inspiration for this Defying Captivity campaign, there's really, like you said, really, really strong animal rights themes in Wicked. The books apparently had really strong animal rights themes. Do you think that those were, I don't know if you've read the books, but do you think those were weakened in the movie a little bit? Or do you still feel like, I mean, I think it was a really strong depiction of animal kind of personhood, really. Showing that the animals were actually part of the culture, part of the society. They were, as it should be, part of, there are neighbors, there are, they are persons, and how they became more and more oppressed and oppressed. I think it's just really, really interesting, the theme, the animal rights themes running through Wicked. Do you want to talk a little more about that?
Oh yeah, there are so many like instances and different themes within the story that like honestly I could probably talk for hours about just Wicked. I did read the very first book of the series. I haven't read all of them, but I would say a lot of the differences in like with the musical and the movie, they've kind of sanitized it because
Yeah.
there are some really interesting things that happen in the book that are a little out there. But I think the biggest difference for me is I think just the medium because it's a visual medium versus a text medium. In the book, animals who can speak like language that humans understand, like English or human words, they are capital A animals with a capital A. And animals who don't have that voice, that human voice, they are lowercase a animals. And I really think that's an interesting distinction in the books because it's honestly like it's personifying animals. I mean, that's a lot of what the story does because it's fantasy, but it's really putting out there like animals who have a voice and animals who don't. And there's a distinction, and there's also a distinction in like care in how people consider them because animals who don't have a voice are not considered, they're considered more like livestock. They're considered work animals, they're considered food animals. They're not really given much consideration, and the animals who have a voice do. So, anyways, that's a big part
Yeah.
of the books, which isn't as captured in the movie and in the play. They do capture it in like the songs and like and featuring in the story the animals that are actually losing their voices, but the capital A, lowercase a distinction isn't
Mm.
obviously
So
talked
like
about in the
like
movie.
speciesism, determining one species to be more important or more worthy than another, just like we do with companion animals versus, farmed animals or wild animals.
Yeah, it's that like it's that distinction of like animals who we find palatable
Desirable.
or
Yeah.
companionable,
Yeah.
like and it's different across different like human cultures, like in the US, we really value dogs and cats, but we don't value, cows, but cows are valued in other countries, in
Hmm.
other cultures. That I think is that distinction of like which animals are companionable and like humans can empathize with and which animals we choose not to.
Yeah.
The movie itself, I do think the differences between the movie and the Broadway musical are actually really positive. I think in the musical, like what I was saying earlier about people walking away from the musical and kind of forgetting about the animal rights angle. I think that's because the first half of the play, before intermission, really focuses on that because it's Elphaba's origin of how she grows up alienated and then she, learns about what issues are when she's at school. She has empathy, and then when she finds out what's happening, she takes a hard stance. And then that's when she diverges from normal society, from the wizard, from Glinda. And then the second half of the play, when you come back from intermission, it's all about like a love triangle, Elphaba fighting, but you don't see Dr. Dillamond, I don't think. Like a lot of the animals just disappear in the second half of the play. And in the movie, they really don't. Like, I mean, you don't see Dr. Dillamond as much, but he does appear. And Elphaba literally open rescues him. She opens the cages and the animals like walk out. She has a whole new song that's not in the Broadway play called, or there's two new songs in the second movie, but one of them, which I loved, was There's No Place Like Home. And she sings it
Yeah.
with like her old nanny, Dulcibert, and
Mm.
all of the animals who are escaping
Yeah.
Oz for
Yeah.
freedom,
Yeah.
which I mean, I cried. I was like, this is amazing because it doesn't let you forget that
Hmm.
animals are a big theme. I think in Elphaba's like hideout, she has a literal like sign in the background, like on her like pin board that says animal liberation or rescue the animals.
Really? Oh, I missed that. I'll have to look for that. Wow.
And
Yeah.
the second half of the movie, like it showcases different tactics that she's using. She tries to start educating people first, but then like the misinformation mill happens, the spin from the wizard and Glinda and Madame Morrible try to spin everything to get the public against Elphaba and like hide the truth of what's happening is like a one for one with what happens in our real life when animal rights
Mm.
activists and advocates, come out with investigation footage and they tell the public this is what's happening in these facilities, and then the facilities say like they'll go to the media and be like, that's not our facility, we think that they may have like doctored that footage. No, they didn't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's this misinformation mill. If you can deny, if you can plant that little seed of deniability, people will then
Yeah.
distrust that information. And so that's a huge thing that happens in real life. So I think that was really interesting that the movie really featured themes like that to drive home like really what's happening.
Yeah, really powerful. Very, very cool. You're right. I'm glad they had all that in the second half, and kept that strong kind of animal ethos throughout, and animal liberation, really, ethos throughout. So, and I think it's interesting. I wonder if the person who wrote, and I don't remember their name, who wrote the books, the Wicked books, do you remember their name? We should mention it, and I don't know it. Um,
It was Gregory Maguire.
okay, thank you, Gregory Maguire. I wonder, I don't think he was vegan or anything, but I wonder if he felt the same way that I do, that The Wizard of Oz, the original, has a lot of empathy and sympathy for animals, specifically Toto. Toto is such a huge part of the through line of the story, and I don't think people kind of realize that until it's pointed out, but really it revolves around Toto. So the wicked neighbor lady, right in the beginning, that comes to their house, she wants to take Toto away. I mean, that's the whole thing, is that she wants to take Toto away to be destroyed, to be killed. And Dorothy is just freaking out. I mean, her distress over this is, it's so extreme that she actually wants to run away. And that's what gets her caught in the tornado. The reason she wants to run away is that she wants to take Toto away from this, potentially deadly situation for him. And so she runs away, and that's kind of what gets her caught in the tornado. And another interesting element that is twice actually in the movie is that Toto rescues himself twice. So once at the beginning of the movie, when he bravely jumps out of the back of the basket on the bike, he's being taken away on a basket by the scary wicked neighbor lady on the bike, and he jumps out the back and runs back to Dorothy. And then when they're in Oz and the witch has captured Dorothy and Toto to manipulate her into giving up her ruby slippers. She doesn't threaten her life, she threatens Toto's life. She doesn't threaten Dorothy, she threatens Toto's life. And Dorothy's like, oh, no, no, no. Okay, okay, okay. I'll give you the slippers, just don't hurt my dog. And Toto sees the opportunity, jumps out of the basket again, and then bravely jumps off the drawbridge that's going up. Like a drawbridge is going up. He runs to the top, jumps, and escapes. And there's the famous this moment that's a famous line of Dorothy saying, "Run, Toto, run!" Right? But when you start thinking about it, it's like, wow, Dorothy and Toto's relationship, her trying to protect Toto, is kind of, such a huge part of the story. And I don't know if maybe, the wicked author felt that and wanted to bring that out more. I don't know. Anyway, I just find that really interesting about The Wizard of Oz.
I love that. Yeah, I do think Toto is he's a great character because he does advocate for himself.
Yeah.
And like I think Dorothy even like listens to Toto. She's not just like you're barking, shut up. Like she takes into consideration when he is barking, like what's wrong. But
What
yeah,
are you trying to tell me?
the
Yeah.
idea of Toto liberating himself and like freeing himself is a great theme. It's a great idea because I mean that happens in real life. I always mention the fact that like veganism and like animal rights is it's an interesting community because we're advocating for people who are not ourselves. And I think a lot of times people tend to forget that animals are a part of this movement. It's not just humans. I think we tend to forget, we tend to be a little patronizing, but there are always so many instances of animals using their own voice, their own autonomy to stand up for themselves. Like whenever you see stories of, pigs jumping out of a slaughter truck and running for freedom, or alpacas getting loose and trying to run away, or there's just so many instances, and people tend to just view it as like a chase, or, where it's just they've got to catch them, gotta do something with them. But these animals are saying, I don't belong here. I don't want to be here. I'm getting out. Yeah, so I love that with Toto because, yeah, a lot of times people tend to forget that animals are a part of this movement and they speak for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So I really love all this kind of pop culture and entertainment and finding the vegan animal rights themes. It's fun when you start to watch with a vegan lens, right? And you can really start to see things. You're like, wow, that can really relate to aspects of the work we do. So I wondered if you wanted to talk about any of the other entertainment genres or films, movies, TV, whatever that, have animal rights themes. I know we talked a little about Stargate Atlantis because we both have seen that and have thought about one of the aspects in there. Anyway, is there one you'd like to talk about? Is there one you'd like to bring into the conversation?
Yeah, we can talk about Stargate Atlantis. It's a great show. I think more people should watch it. I watched it probably 15 years ago, right as I was going vegan. So the animal issues really at the time were like completely obvious to me when I was watching it, and it was really eye-opening. But yeah, I really like Stargate Atlantis. It's also like Jason Momoa's in it. For
Yes,
anyone
that's
who hasn't
right.
like seen like baby Jason Momoa. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, it's a great show. It's it's very Star Trek-esque, where you've got space travelers traveling around, helping different planets, different species. And one of the main villains of the story, like the whole entire series, is the Wraith. It's an alien species, I think based out of the Pegasus galaxy. But the Wraith basically feed on like human life force. So they don't just like suck your blood or something. They like drain the life force so humans like die. And the way that the characters on the show talk about the Wraith is really interesting. They talk about them like they are inherently evil because they consume human life. It's not that like they're making a choice, that they have any alternatives. I think later on in the show they end up capturing a Wraith and doing like testing on them, trying to figure out if they could like sustain themselves off of something else other than human life. But I think it's really interesting that they talk about them like they're evil.
Yeah.
just because they consume human life. They've never even had a conversation with, they're just like, no, they're evil because they eat humans.
Yeah.
Because it's such dissonance from how humans behave in real life. We eat animals, we consider them to be ingredients at the grocery store. Don't even think about their life, their death, how they were treated, how they were exploited. And so like based on this show, it just seems like it's such a one for one. Like if the Wraith are evil for human eating humans, humans are evil for eating animals.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting and it's true the wraith they're seen as just this like a cross between a zombie and a vampire. It's like zombie vampire, scary, scary, like the most scary thing you can imagine. But then it's like as we get to know the wraith, it becomes a little more like, oh, no, this is just a species. What they can get their nourishment from is human life. So, it's we think of them as such monsters, but they're just eating, right? So how is it that we're not monsters for eating animals? It's kind of like, look, if you think this is so monstrous, then let's take a better look at the human species and what we're doing to animals and that we are their monsters, right? Very interesting.
Yeah, there's also an episode where they go to like a planet where it's all children.
Oh,
And then they say
yeah.
that like every like 7 or 14 years, like the Wraith come and they like wipe out the humans there and like only leave a few. So that like the children are trying to like self like to
Right.
try to like
There's
avoid the Wraith coming
exactly like
back.
at 18 or 21 or something, they all kill themselves so that the wraith doesn't come back because it's not worth the wraith just to go for children. Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo.
But when
Yeah.
the main cast gets to this planet, one of the characters likens it to veal. And they're
Oh,
so shocked and hurt by it. They're so touched and like
wow.
like you can really feel the empathy, the despair they feel when they visit this planet because they literally say it's like raising veal for slaughter. And then one of the other main characters snaps at that person is like, "Hey, don't make me feel bad about eating veal. Like, don't make that comparison." Which
Wow.
again, like really stuck with me that like they were literally like making it a literal comparison to the audience, and then they threw a joke in there because they probably didn't want people to feel bad for
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
choices. They were like, just kidding. It's
Yeah.
not,
Right.
I feel like we're judging you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was so shocked. I'm like, yeah, it is. And like, that's wrong.
Yeah.
It's right
Yeah.
there for people to see, but you just gotta make that connection.
Right. Fascinating. Are there any others that you have vegan themes that you might want to talk about?
Yeah, one of the this show that I just watched actually at the end of last year, but it's been around I think probably for like 20 years, Avatar: The Last Airbender. I watched the original animated series and
Oh, and
it's
there's
it's
a
it's geared
there's
towards
a
children.
there's a live action one now, right? On
There
Netflix?
is, and
Yeah.
I think there's also a new series that's going to be coming out
Okay.
next year maybe. But
But the cartoon is the one you're talking about now that yeah.
yeah, so it's
Okay.
it's it's the one that most people, if you've seen Avatar, it's probably the animated series.
Okay.
Because that was the one that at least people in the US like really saw for the first
Okay.
time. But the main character, Aang, he's vegetarian. He talks about it all the time.
Huh.
And he has like two animal companions that travel along with them. They get their own storylines later on in the series. One of them, like, he gets captured, he gets thrown into a circus, he frees himself, he gets captured again. He's used for testing. It's really interesting that like it's just this show geared towards kids, but it really like drives home consistently. The animals are individuals, the animals have personalities, the animals are part of our community, and that like yeah, animals necessarily aren't for eating. Like the main character talks about it like every time like the other main characters they get food, half the time Aang is always saying like, oh, I'm not gonna have that because I'm vegetarian. And
Wow.
he'll find another option and then you see him eating something else later. So he's not just, starving. Yeah, it's just a lot of like little things in the show that and big things in the show that show you that animals are just another character. They're just another part of our community.
That's wonderful. Avatar: The Last Airbender. Very cool. Wow, yeah, you really find these everywhere. It's amazing when you start looking for them. We have a lot of really positive animal themed entertainment out there, which is great.
Any fantasy or sci-fi show, I think anything with like a really broad expanse, like world building aspect to it is gonna have animals and they're gonna be like a good part of that world because like you can't have a world without animals. And I think that's animals are part of what makes these fandoms what they are and like as enjoyable as they are. Because if it was just a bunch of humans, it wouldn't feel like
Re-
it was real. It wouldn't
Real,
feel
yeah.
as fantastical as it does because animals are part of our world. Like we, even though, in the real world, like we don't consider them legally, they're considered objects. They don't have rights. Their habitats aren't really protected. But what I love about like fandoms is that you really can't have a great fandom without animals. Like
Mm,
it's just one of those things that people don't maybe think about, or maybe they do, but that they're really a key to any like well-functioning world. And I think in our real life, we tend to forget that we need animals.
yeah,
We're all in an ecosystem together. We share this world with animals.
yeah,
And just like, any good fantasy or sci-fi world, like we share it with those animals.
yeah. Yeah, and they're so magical and fantastical and
Magical animals, magical creatures in the stories that we love, they teach us empathy, like just like the animals that we encounter in our real lives, like if we have dogs or cats or bunnies or chickens who live with us, like they all teach us that animals have personalities, that animals feel love and pain, and that they just want to be here. They just want to exist. Animals in the real world teach us that, but also animals in these stories, these magical animals teach us that. Like no matter how fantastical they are, it all boils down to like respecting their wildness, respecting their autonomy, respecting their rights. If anyone who's seen like Okja, it's about,
yeah, yeah, it's
you
great.
know,
Yeah,
these hybrid pigs, and they can be part of a family, but they also like just want to exist. They were brought
yeah,
into this world, but just because humans brought them into this world doesn't mean that they should have the final say over what happens to them, because once you bring them into the world, they exist for themselves. They don't exist for us, which I
yeah,
think is, one of those key points that a lot of genres and fantasy and sci-fi stories show us is that no matter like if these animals present a problem or a threat, like they existed here before us, or if we brought them into this world, like they're our responsibility now, like to keep them safe and to figure out a way for us to live with them and not just, once we find a problem or a hiccup, just eliminate them.
yeah. It was all really good points around how the mythical creatures or the fantasy creatures in these different entertainments and fandoms evoke empathy, help us to evoke empathy. Maybe even if they are like a different kind of animal, like how in Harry Potter, there's all the different interesting animals. Maybe that helps people to empathize with animals even more. They are like, oh, I really empathize with this fantasy creature. And we realize that here on Earth, we have an amazing array of beautiful, magical creatures on this planet that are worthy of their own lives and that we need to protect. Yeah, I love that. That's really cool. Well, Brittany, it's been really, really fun to talk to you. I love talking about this stuff, but we do need to wrap up. So I want to ask you our last question. What gives you hope for the future?
What gives me hope is our community, is the relentlessness of the truth. The fact that no matter how the administration, law enforcement, district attorneys, the laws try to one up us, try to intimidate vegans and animal rights advocates from speaking the truth, from sharing the truth, from rescuing animals, no matter what they throw at us, we'll never back down. Like you always see people stepping up. I see more and more people when the police come and they try to tell people like you need to be quiet. you need to leave. You can't be on public property because the business doesn't like you being here, even though it's completely legal. They're trying to, intimidate us. There's always someone who steps up and says, "No, I'm not afraid of you." And that's what gives me hope is that we don't need to be afraid. We have the truth on our side, and no matter what they come for us, like we have the truth on our side. We have the animals on our side. We're on the right side of history.
Yeah, that's right. Very powerful. Well, before we go, do you want to tell us how we can get in touch with you or your organization or how to connect with you?
Yeah, we have a website, protegofoundation.org. We are on Instagram, Protego Foundation, Facebook. We have a Discord if people want to join. But I highly recommend, yeah, checking out our website. We have a lot of resources for activists, signing up for our email listserv. We're a very small group, so we don't really spam people with a lot of emails. But when we do like these virtual action hours, people can join. We do them online and we try to pick times that kind of work across time zones so that if anyone wants to help us and take part in our actions for animals, yeah, sign up for our listserv. We'll send you an email the next time we have an action hour, and you can hopefully join and take some actions for animals.
Great. Great. We'll be sure to put all of those links in the show notes. And I love what you do, Brittany. It's been really fun to talk to you and what creative work, just really great tapping into our pop culture and finding ways to bring that into advocacy and make it actionable for animals. It's really, really wonderful. So thank you so much for your work and thanks for being on the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Hope for the Animals podcast, a project of compassionate living. So, one that we didn't talk about were the Harry Potter prequels that were all about protecting the magical creatures that were being captured and killed. It was called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. That was 2016. And there were two more movies that followed. It was a trilogy. And that one was all about the magical creatures and protecting them, especially the first one. So I can't believe we didn't mention that one. There's just so many examples the more you look for them. If you enjoy this kind of thing, I'm including a link to another recent episode with my husband Kojin as my guest. And we talked about children's media, books, cartoons, Disney, Pixar, and animal personhood and vegan themes represented in so much of children's media, the good and the bad. And that one was really fun, a similar conversation. So check that out if you'd like. There's a link in the show notes. And if you notice any vegan themes, animal themes in fictional media out there, let me know. I want to do more shows on this. I think it's a fun diversion. And I just really love what Brittany and the Protego Foundation are doing. So check them out. The links are in the show notes. Vegan Nerds Unite. So share this episode with your friends and live vegan.